My name is Joe Biden. And I'm here for a bunch of reasons, one of which is my National Security Advisor, the Deputy Secretary of State, number 3 person in the Defense Department, all who still work for me, all said to me, if I didn't show up for Alyssa, I was dead. I was showing up for Alyssa no matter what. When I endorsed her, I told her I'd come and campaign for her or against her, whichever would help the most. I'm also here for Gretchen and for Carla. But, you know, one of my best friends, most loyal friends, more than one another, I've had all those years I served in the Senate, was Debbie Wasserman. Not Wasserman. That's the pipe bomb that sent to me. As I was about to speak to that, Debbie Stabenow. You know, folks, it's been a rough 18 months. I'm sorry, I've been into 26 states and I've been doing a lot of rallies. I have laryngitis, so I'll try my best to speak into the microphone here. I asked them if they had a handheld microphone, but they don't. Maybe I can pull this out. Oh, there you go. The governor looked at me and said, if you break that, I'm going to have to fix it since I'm going to be governor. So, sorry, Gov. Sorry, Gov. Look, folks, the 3 times this past week, the forces of hate have terrorized our fellow Americans for their political beliefs, for the color of their skin, or for the religion they practice. A series of explosive devices were sent to a bunch of us and to the media. Only thing that worried me was what my granddaughters would pick any of them. Cold-blooded murder of 2 African Americans in a supermarket in Kentucky because they're black. And the worst anti-Semitic hate crime in our nation's history, the massacre of 11 folks practicing their religion in a synagogue I know well in Pittsburgh. Folks, we've got to turn this around. I know that sometimes it feels like, sometimes these days, it feels like anger, hatred, and viciousness are going to overwhelm us. And it's on our leaders to reset the tone, to dial the temperature down, to restore some dignity to our national dialogue. And folks, with all due respect, we have to recognize that how we treat one another as individuals also matters. And words matter. Words matter. The tone has to change. Our political opponents are our enemies. The press is not the enemy of the people. Before you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, you're an American. I never thought I could have to say these words because they almost sound corny. But it's real. It's real. Folks, we are so much better than this. So much better. I've traveled every state in this union. I've been in 24, 25 states in the last, I don't know how many weeks. And I think I know the American people. And each one of us has the power to change the tone in our day-to-day lives. The way we interact, the way we treat each other, the way we use the internet, the way we share what we tweet, what we post. We can and we will overcome this moment, but only if we do it together. But only by being the very best version of ourselves we can be. The version of America that I see as I travel the country. America, it sounds corny. It's worthy of being referred to as that shining city on the hill. But guess what? I think that, Melissa will tell you that I I know a fair amount about foreign policy. That's when she worked with me. Right off the bat, the president put me in charge of Iraq and a lot of other interesting places that she had to go and try to settle. But the point is this: the rest of the world's looking at us and wondering what in God's name is happening. No, I mean this sincerely now. I've met every major head of state in the last 40 years. I've gotten calls from a number of them. As recently as 3 weeks ago, I went overseas because one of the prime ministers wanted to know, what is happening, Mr. Vice President? Do we still have a relationship, Mr. Vice President? NATO, did you ever think you'd see NATO like this? Well, folks, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. It goes to the question of who we are, what our characters. You know, campaign for a lot of folks this year. And more than anything else I've seen, whether I've been in rural Kentucky, Alabama, Michigan, I just came from Fargo, North Dakota. Flew from there to here after campaigning for our Senate candidate there. Doesn't matter. Minnesota, Tennessee, Kentucky. Doesn't matter where I've been. Everyone in both parties is looking for men and women who have character. No, they're looking for character. Even before they're looking for a specific issue. And they're judging these candidates' character on how they talk about the issues, whether they tell the truth, whether they mean what they say, whether they're misleading. They're looking for people who are authentic, who never belittle other people, who treat everyone with dignity and respect. As I said, who simply just tell the truth, which is a vanishing commodity lately. Well, really? But I'm here because you have several, but I want to focus on one. One of these people who has real character. Well, listen to this. Now, I don't want you to clap. I want you to listen for a second, because I'm deadly earnest about this. The 9/11 generation is the most incredible generation in the history of the United States of America. The only generation we have ever sent to war repeatedly. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 28, 29 times. As a senator, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, as vice president, because the list will tell you my main responsibility was national security and foreign policy in the last administration. And folks, you know, I've watched people that, for example, I was asked to pin the Silver Star by General Rodriguez, our 4-star, on a young Navy captain who was in a FOB, a forward operating base up in the Konar Valley in Afghanistan, a godforsaken place. And listen, those of us like big sandbags all around on the edge of a hill, trying to prevent the ability for Taliban or anyone else to take control. And what happened was there was an attack, and a young sergeant, this was a Navy captain, got shot and fell down this hill, this embankment, about 30 yards. He climbed down, he picked that young soldier up, carried him up under fire, and got him to safety. But he died from his wounds. But General Rodriguez wanted me to go into that battle area, which they usually don't let vice presidents do. But I insisted. Let me go in. He wanted me to pin the Silver Star at the FOB, at this remote base, on this young man. So the general called his attention. I walked up, the young man saluted me. I went to put the Silver Star in him. He said, "Sir," whispering, "I don't want the goddamn thing." Nothing funny about it. Not a damn thing funny about it. He said, "I don't want it." "He died, sir. He died. I failed, sir. I failed. He died." You're the most incredible group of warriors the world has ever seen. We're 4.5 million, like my son, signed up just like your candidate did after 9/11. My son was the sitting Attorney General of the state of Delaware, elected Attorney General of the state of Delaware. said, Dad, what are you doing on Friday? I said, what do you want me doing? What do you want? He said, I want you to come and pin my bars on me. I said, what the hell did you do? He said, I joined the United States Army. He had to give up his job as Attorney General and turn it over to a Republican for a year, because once he became federal property, as opposed to state property, he had no right to engage in any state activity. He went to Iraq, he spent a year there. He won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal, and the whole rise other decorations. He came home and he died, but he was a good man. And there's so many people like him, listen, who were sparked by this sense of obligation and patriotism, seeing those buildings fall. And ladies and gentlemen, during her, as she told you, she watched the buildings come down when she was in her first week of graduate school. And she decided then, I love this ad, this idiot's running against her. What do I choose? Folks, she decided then to choose her country over her personal well-being, choose her country over her personal comfort, choose her country over her career that she had planned. And that's never changed with this woman. Never changed. We've traveled to Iraq together. I've watched her. She's risked her life, put herself in harm's way. 3 tours at a time when my son was there as well, when the battle was raging. We had over 167,000 people. Folks, from that point on, she decided to dedicate her career to protect their country. It wasn't just the CIA and the Middle Eastern analysts. Everybody who worked with her, it's not hyperbole. I can say this without fear of contradiction because I was the guy running a lot of this. The Defense Department, the State Department, the CIA, they had enormous respect for her and gave her enormous responsibility. She worked for presidents of both political parties in '04 when George Bush was still there, playing a major role in the efforts to defeat ISIS and overseeing Pentagon policy on Russia, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Western Hemisphere, which were, unfortunately for her, my territories that I was in. Folks, there's a lot of ground to cover. It's no small task. But Liza is up to this. This is fully within her wheelhouse. Because she's a patriot through and through. Sounds corny, but she's a patriot. She has literally, repeatedly put her life on the line for her country. As I said, tours in '04, '06, '08, 2 years. Runs in her family. She met her Dave there, her husband Dave there, it's her Dave. A colonel, an Apache helicopter pilot. She could tell you if you had time, the overwhelming struggle of just to get as many Apache helicopters to places we needed them. We didn't have enough of them. These guys risking their lives, extending beyond the time they were supposed to be there. Helicopter pilot in the first Gulf War. He was in Korea, he was in Kosovo, where my son also spent another 10 months. Folks, then deploying to Iraq. My mom said, oh, if everything bad, something good will come if you look hard enough. Well, out of Iraq came Melissa. So in a perverse way, your husband owes ISIS. He had to go. You know, and her stepkids are serving their country now in their own way. One's an army officer, and the other as a physician. Her entire family are patriots. The next governor and lieutenant governor, Gretchen Whitmer and Garn. Garn is, I told Garn, if I have to be in a foxhole, I want him in there with me. I want him on my side. He assures me he can go to his left as well as his right. But look, Gretchen doesn't waste any time on petty or small things. I mean, she really does. I've gotten to know her. It's not the first time we've been together and campaigned together. The health and safety and access to opportunity for the people of Michigan is why she showed up. That's why she's here. And the first, really important decision she made, showed her good judgment and picked the ground as a running mate. This guy's something else. He's a programmer. He's a community organizer. He spent his entire career applying his talent to solve problems for Michiganders. As I said, Debbie. God love Debbie. Debbie, I hope you're still here, Debbie. Let me tell you about Debbie. You would not have an automobile industry in this state without Debbie. I get credit because I was the one guy in the White House who said, over my dead body, we're not going to do this, because a lot of people didn't want to do it. 40% of the Democrats didn't think we should bail out the industry. Or were Debbie not organizing the entire United States Senate and Congress, it would have never happened. $170 million for finally being to fix those water pipes in Flint. Passing and defending the Affordable Care Act. And so much more. So much more. Folks, we all know that there's something different about this election. For real. This is bigger than politics. The very character of our country is on the ballot on Tuesday. Remember, folks? America's unique among all countries in the world. That's not just being a typical American. It's a fact. We're the only country in the world organized around ideas. You can't define for me what an American is based on ethnicity, race, background, gay, straight. You can't define it. There's no way you can do it. If you think I'm joking, especially younger, try it. Go home and sit down and try to define what an American is. Other than a commitment to a shared set of values. That's what the founders are all about. That's what they're about. America is organized around ideals. I'm not trying to be, this is a fact, historical fact. Fairness, decency, respect, equality, giving everyone of God's children a fair shot. We hold these truths self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed by the Creator. I never thought I'd ever have to say that because it was such a given. But today, our very democracy is under stress. And it's time for us to stand up for American ideals, to begin to tell the American story. Ideals like integrity, decency, treating everyone with respect, giving hate no safe harbor, leaving nobody behind, committing to something bigger than ourselves. Simple honesty. It sounds corny, but that's who we are. And by the way, as I travel the world, and many of you have as well, probably, why are we viewed as, when they talk about us, to be naive Americans? Because diplomats, like me, when I'm speaking for the President of the United States with a foreign leader, we use words like fairness. We use words like decency. We use words like honor. Other countries don't use those words. It's all transactional for most. But that's not who we are. David Brooks, a conservative columnist, has pointed out in an article, he said, the moral fabric of society is invisible, but it's essential. He goes on to say, some use their public positions to try to dissolve that moral fabric so they can have space, an open space, for their selfishness. If you're not acting on ideals, it's all transactional. It all gets down to raw power, just simple power, abuse of power. This is a new phenomenon. Meant to instill fear and division in people. There was a headline in one of the leading papers in America at the end of last week. It said, Republicans settle on fear and falsehoods as a midterm strategy. Now, here's the deal. No American president has ever led by fear. Not Lincoln, not Roosevelt, not Kennedy, not Reagan, not Ford. None of them ever led by fear. But lately, even though I get along with my Republican colleagues, every time there's ever a problem between the Congress and the White House, remember, I'd be the guy to go up there to settle it. Not a joke, every single time. Because they know I respect them. I've never misled anyone. Argue like hell on the substance, but never question their motive. Because once you question someone's motive, you can never get to an agreement. The reason you're doing this, you're in the pocket of, or you're not honest, or you're not a decent person. You can never get to agreement. But lately, it seems a lot of my Republican friends in the Congress have kind of lost their nerve. No, in a literal sense. Because of gerrymandering and unlimited spending, and because of this president. They spend more time protecting the interest of a president than acting on principle. Folks, this is not your father's Republican Party. When President Trump got elected, Barack and I sat with one another and decided we were going to give him a chance to set up his administration. Just like W gave us a chance. We disagreed with W in fundamental ways. But he stood back and rather than nitpick the first year, gave us the chance to set up a gigantic corporation called the federal government. So we decided to do that with the president. But folks, after Charlottesville, I couldn't remain silent any longer. So I wrote a piece for Atlantic magazine where I said that we're in a battle for America's soul. And it wasn't hyperbole. Because hate is on the march in America. As we watched, I come out of the civil rights movement. As we watched these contorted faces coming out from under rocks and fields carrying torches and swastikas, chanting, and most of you don't know this, what they were chanting was the exact same anti-Semitic bile that was chanted in the streets of Nuremberg, Munich, Berlin during the 30s and Hitler's days. Accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan and David Duke. And when confronted by people who said, not in my city, that's not who we are, there was conflict. And the President of the United States signed a moral equivalence among the groups. Between those dark forces, those patriotic forces opposing them. That hate will continue to grow because our children are listening and they're watching. You know, American Psychological Association once a year does a national survey on stress in America. They just published it. You can Google it, look it up. And what they call Generation Z, made up of kids between 15 and 21, reported the worst mental health of any generation. 91% of these youth, and some of you are members of that, you know what I'm telling you to be true. 91% felt physical symptoms such as depression or anxiety associated with that stress. The words of our leaders matter. They matter. And our silence is complicity. But we will not be silent. We will not be complicit. We must not be. This is not politics as usual. This is about hate. As Democrats, we have two urgent jobs to complete. The first one is we have to change the political climate. Because for our children's sake, for our sake. And the second one is, we have to do much more to restore what used to be a basic bargain in the United States of America. The basic bargain shared by Republicans and Democrats. It said if you contributed to the well-being of the enterprise you belong to, you got to share in the benefits. But that bargain's been dead. Folks, it's the bargain that built the middle class. The middle class is shrinking. Between the years 1946 and 1973, productivity grew 95%, I believe, maybe 96%, and wages grew 92%. Between 1973 and today, productivity grew 77%, and wages grew 12%. Folks, the middle class isn't a number, by the way. I got a lot of economists. They'll tell you it's $52,300, or some will say $53,800. It's not a number. It's a value set. Middle class is about being able to own your own home and not have to rent it. It's about being able to send your kid to a park and know they're going to go home safely. Being able to send your kid to a local public high school. If they do well, they can get into school after high school, whether it's trade school or college. Being able to take home your geriatric mom after your dad passes away and hope your children never have to take you home. It's about a little bit of peace of mind. Just a little bit of breathing room. But folks, getting killed. If you listen to Barack, you think he talks about me being from Scranton, you think I climbed out of a coal mine with a lunch bucket in my hand. But, by the way, we need some medical help back here. So what happened is, when Cole died, my dad wasn't a coal miner. My dad was a white-collar salesperson, a high school educated, well-read, graceful man. But there was no work. So he left to go to Wilmington, Delaware to find work, left us with our grandfather. Saying, I'll be back. It'll take me about a year. He'd come home every weekend. When he finally got enough to get an apartment and get a place and so on, we all moved down. From that point on, whenever someone in our neighborhood or family or would lose a job, my dad would look at us and say to me and my three siblings, he'd say, Joey, remember, and this is a God truth, my word is a Bible. Joey, remember, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about your place in the community. It's about your self-respect. And then he'd say it's about being able to look your child in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. So many people, through no fault of their own, are not able to look their kids in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. But my God, we have so many answers if we just get the hell out of our own way. You know, that's and listen, understanding what my dad knew. It all starts with a job. That's why she's committed to rebuilding with the governor to be the state infrastructure. Your ports, canals, bridges, airports, roads, broadband, so much more. These provide good middle-class jobs, good paying jobs, jobs you can raise a family on. And it also starts a virtuous cycle, making Michigan more competitive, attracting businesses, foreign and domestic, creating more jobs and more opportunities. Secondly, Melissa understands that it's hard to look your children in the eye or look at your spouse unless you're able to provide them with basic health care and well-being. That's why she's so committed to total justice. You know, Deputy Stabenow has heard me say 100 times on the floor of the Senate, I trust somebody most if they arrive at the conclusion by it starting in their gut, working their way through their heart, and then it goes to a good brain and is articulate. There's a lot of smart people. There's a lot of good smart people where it starts here, but under pressure, they're the ones that tend to crack. It just starts here. This is gut. She gets it. She tastes it. She feels it, like all of you do. That's why she's committed to saving and expanding the affordable program. You heard her story about her mom. It's real. She's diagnosed. Can you imagine? Sitting around, I can imagine. I've been a significant consumer of health care, unfortunately. I I got elected when I was 29 years old in the United States Senate on November the 3rd. I wasn't old enough to be sworn in. I had to wait 17 days to be eligible. For real, I didn't turn 30 until the 20th. I was down in Washington on the 18th of November, hiring staff, and I got a phone call from my local fire department, first responders. Said, you got to get home. A young woman they put on the phone. You got to get home right away. There's been an accident involving your family. I said, what's the matter? She didn't mean it, but she blurted out. Your wife's dead. Your daughter's dead. Your 2 boys may not make it. Well, a lot's happened. A lot worse has happened to other people without the kind of help I had. I had the incredible family and duty. But here's the deal, guys. If I hadn't had health insurance, the bills in today's numbers are hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was running for president in 1988. I had these awful headaches. I got taken to the hospital. They told me I had a 30% chance to live because I had 2 cranial aneurysms. I was hospitalized for 7 months. I took the top of my head off a couple times. Second time to put in a clip on my arteries. I did it the second time. The wags in my state said they couldn't find the brain the first time. But my point was, you know what the bill was even back then in '89? $900,000. $900,000. What would happen if I hadn't had health insurance? My son Bo has a stroke, got back from Iraq, winning I forget what it's called, but he was the most fit person in his regiment, with 9% body fat, great shape, comes home, turns out he was next to those burn pits. He comes home with stage 4 glioblastoma, a death sentence. He fights for 2 years, hospitalized a long time. And guess what? I can't imagine what his bills would have been had not been for the VA. What do these guys think? No, I really mean it. Not a joke. What do they think? Not just poor folks, but anybody who's not really wealthy. What do they think is going to happen? Folks, the only candidate in this race that's actually going to protect people with pre-existing conditions is your new congressman, Debbie Stabenow. And that's a good way to make sure Debbie to repeal the Affordable Care Act, I think at least 3 times. But the attack on healthcare goes far beyond kicking young people off their parents' policies up to the age of 26, which has saved a lot of lives. It goes beyond stripping coverage for 300,000 people in Lansing district alone. 300,000 people in our district have a pre-existing condition. It goes beyond stripping them of protection too. Republicans are working to eviscerate Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Now I said that 2 years ago when the attack started on the ACA. And some thought I was exaggerating, and I predicted what would happen. So they're going to pass a massive tax bill, create an enormous deficit, and then turn around and say they've got to cut spending in order to deal with the deficit. And there's only one place to cut, guys. No, for real. They asked Willie Sutton why he robbed banks. He said, that's where the money is. Well, guess what? When you recently got elected to listen and elected Democratic Congress, the Republican budget chairman has already introduced what they call, it's a wonky statement, a proposal, to cut over $500 billion in Medicare. It's already in writing. No, this is already there. This isn't Democrats doing scare tactics and all that way some would do about Republicans and Medicare. This is real. And then as Debbie will tell you, the Republican leader of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell, I know well, has been straightforward. Straightforward. Well, you can do all you want, guys. Let me tell you something. He was straightforward. He said, we're going to have to deal with the deficit, which the tax bill created, of $1,900 billion. And guess what? Not a single economist you'll find in this university or anywhere else will tell you we can possibly sustain that without economic dislocation for the next 10 years. So he said flat out, we're going to have to go after Social Security and Medicare in order to deal with the deficit problem created by the Democrats. Folks, the one thing that made me a Democrat, and I suspect all of you, is I was raised to feel a sense of abhorrence of abuse of power. Whether it's a man raising his hand to a woman or a child or a government or wealthier, powerful people using their economic clout to take advantage. The one thing we Democrats have never been able to stand is this notion of abuse of power. We've always stood for giving Americans a fighting chance. We've not always been right. Sometimes we've been wrong. But it's always been the basic thing some Democrats began to lose the last 6 or 7 years. It's back now. But it goes like this. We believe, I was raised like you were, that the way it works is ordinary people are capable of doing extraordinary things given half a chance. We've got to reset the moral compass of this nation. There's a lot out there to be worried about. I just had a picture taken with some of the folks in the campaigns. One very nice woman came up to me, and she was crying. I said, what's the matter? She said, I'm sorry. She said, Christ, just things are so bad. Things are so bad. And I said, look, they're not that bad if we stand up as American folks. We are better positioned than any nation in the world to own the 21st century. To own it. Let me be specific. We're not only the wealthiest nation in history, we're the world's largest economy. And it continues to expand, and we have replacement workers. China's a big economy. They have no replacement workers. By 2022, they have more people retired than working because of their one-child policy for the previous 30 years. That's number one. And they're xenophobic. They won't let anybody else come. Number two, we're in a situation where we're energy independent, for God's sake, with the capacity of fundamentally changing the mix of our energy to renewable energy overnight. I picked out China. Everybody thinks China's going to eat our lunch. I've spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has, the leader of China. It's a long story why, but I have. Traveled 17,000 miles with him, spent 24 or 25 hours with him. Folks, not only do the Chinese have no energy capacity going into the 21st century, or the 2020s, they don't have enough water. Yeah, 20% of the water in the world's here, but guess what? They don't have enough water, so they have a $500 billion project, if my memory serves me, to try to turn around one of their two major rivers, to have it flow in a different direction, so their population can have water to drink and live. Folks, we are the breadbasket of the world. Between 35 and 40% of their land is polluted with cadmium. Cannot produce anything. Cannot produce anything. We have the strongest military in the history of the world. Estimates are it would take well over I think it's $7 trillion for the Chinese to be able to match the ability to throw weight and troops around the world. Guys, we have more fine research universities in the United States than all the rest of the world combined. And everything from that cell phone you're holding to every major life-changing thing that's occurred in the last 23 years has come out of a research university, not a corporation, a research university. Think of every one of those universities. West Asno, San Diego, They are university research centers. I was with the leader of Google who asked me if I'd go to the Congress and make a pitch with him for more of pure research money. I said yes. And at one point before a bipartisan group of senators, I said, why don't you tell these guys where you got the algorithm for Google? And he kind of put his head down. I said, tell them. He said, Stanford University. I said, tell them. No, I said, tell them who paid for it. He said, you did. It's a good thing that those discoveries can be turned into opportunities by corporations. That's a good thing. Not a criticism of corporations. But my God, we have more brain power in this country and the major changes in artificial intelligence than anywhere in the world. Folks, our workers are the most productive workers in the world, 3 times as productive as they are in Asia. We're the most agile venture capitalists in the world. No other nation is a match to us. We want them to do well. It's in our interest for them to do well. That keeps the peace. Folks, there is nothing beyond our capacity. So get off your rear ends. Pick your heads up. Stop walking around like, oh my God, things are terrible. We are in total control of what we can do. We've got to remember who we are. This is the United States of America. There's nothing behind us. There's not a single thing we cannot do. Not a single thing. And folks, the only thing strong enough to tear America apart is America itself. And we've seen it start. We have to make it stop. That's what Tuesday's all about. We have to make it clear. We have to make it clear to you Democrats. We choose hope over fear. We choose unity over division. We choose our allies over our enemies. And we choose truth over lies. We choose a brighter future over the desperate grip, the darkest elements of our society from the past and trying to resurrect and sort of grab us by the ankle. This country has to come together. Everywhere I go, Democrats and Republicans, they want us to come together to remember who the hell we are. And by the way, this isn't a patriotic rant. It's the truth. America. This is America. And together, we can do anything and we can take it all back. So get the hell up. Go out and vote. God bless you all. And God protect our troops. This is our time, I promise you.